Welcome to Dr. Bingo Fairmont's Management Minute, a podcast on all things management. Dr. Fairmont is unfortunately out of the office today, so instead it's going to be me, Russell Clayton, and my colleague, Dr. Adam Shoemaker, here to fill in for him today. We're coming to you from St. Leo University's Donald R. Tapia School of Business recording studio here in sunny Tampa Bay, Florida. Shu, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Russell. How about yourself?
Doing just fine. I'm excited that we overcame our password struggle. For the listener, we forgot the password to the computer, and this podcast today almost didn't happen.
That's right, but we did. We're on here now, and before we get started on that management information, I wanted to celebrate the fact that Star Wars Rogue One is coming out sometime in the future. We saw the preview. I'm a big fan. Now, Russell's not as big of a fan, but what did you think of that preview, Russell?
I'll tell you what, Shu. I really enjoyed the preview. It almost makes me want to watch the movie when it comes out. Now, I got to confess, I've not seen the first Star Wars movie. I've not seen any of the Star Wars movies.
This is hard for me to believe.
It is hard, and I'll tell you what, the backlash, I'm sure, is significant because the other day I was with my family at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And as you're probably aware, they're making a big push with the Star Wars attractions over there.
Yes.
A gentleman in a Star Wars, a character came walking by, and I snapped a photo of him. I put it on Facebook, and I said, "Who is this?" And my friends just lit into me. Turns out it was Darth Maul.
And they thought it was a quiz, but then you said, "No, really, I don't know who this is supposed to be."
Yeah. And I quote from my friend Brad, "I'm ashamed to be your friend right now." So. But Rogue One does look awesome. I'll give you that.
Well, there is some goodness going on in there. I thought it looked a little formulaic based on The Force Awakens just coming out last fall, and now we've got this another heroine, different sort of part of the stage of the timeline, but kind of a little bit formulaic in terms of what they're offering us. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be good. I'm sure they'll sell lots of tickets.
So, how many interns do you think worked on the Star Wars Rogue One production?
That is a great question. Fox got in trouble a couple of years ago for not paying their interns. They had to deal with a big lawsuit. And this was on the movie Black Swan, which is not a Star Wars movie, although it did star Natalie Portman.
There's synergy there.
Of Padme Amidala fame. Yep, so it all comes together sooner or later.
It does.
Here's the thing. Interns are a big deal in the industry. They're a big deal in college, right? And I think many of our programs here at our university require an internship.
Right.
So what should students do when they're looking for an internship, and what should companies do in terms of compensating and paying their interns? What do you think about unpaid internships?
I'll draw from my experience as an undergraduate student. I did my internship. I got paid. Now, it was pennies.
Yeah.
But I got paid. But I do know a lot of students, a lot of my fellow students back in the dark ages when I was going through my program did unpaid internships. I know a lot of students now who are doing unpaid internships, and we're going to talk about some of those factors at the end of today's podcast that would dictate whether or not they can be paid or unpaid. But I know a lot of students are doing unpaid internships for nonprofits. I know in the sports world that unpaid internships are a big thing. Right now, I'm of the impression that we need to pay our interns.
I think you're right. And we read a couple articles about this. This season of the year, which is spring, right now it's April, people start thinking about these things. You think about summer interns for organizations and internship placements for students. We read an article from Forbes, we read one from Huffington Post, and everybody seems to agree paid internship is the way to go, because otherwise, you're basically exploiting these people. We're talking about,
right,
free work, and that's not what our society was founded on, right? You're taking away jobs from people who might be able to get these entry-level jobs that are being performed by unpaid, student interns or interns at some level. And then the other thing is, a lot of people say, well, this just really puts the ball in the court of kids or students who can afford, hey, I'm not going to make any money, but I'm going to get this great experience. Not everybody can live on no money,
Right. It is. If you're running an unpaid internship system, it's a bit biased. You are missing out on a segment of student who, as you mentioned, for monetary reasons, may not be able to participate in your internship you're excluding a whole group of people that may have actually benefited your company.
Absolutely. Not to mention the fact that they are responsible, at least here at our university, to pay tuition as a class for the internship experience. So they're kind of getting, double jeopardy. They have to pay to do it, and they're not getting paid for the work. So that's not really fair.
Now, I think one thing that we should think through and talk about here is, our average listener is not the undergraduate student looking for the internship, but rather those who are employed in large organizations, some small business owners. So what are the benefits for those listeners? What are the benefits of them actually hosting an intern and paying them?
Well, one thing to consider is it doesn't have to be a traditional 9-to-5 kind of an internship where the intern's sitting at a desk waiting for someone to give him or her something to do. Right, and what that means is if you have a special project, you have a one-off, you have a report or a series of reports or some research that needs to get done, maybe that's where you use them. And students, especially your top-tier students, are great at doing research. Not only are they good at doing it, but they have lots of resources. They have their university library. They know how to get on the internet, look up stuff. So that might be a great resource and a great way to leverage that intern, even if you don't have a traditional sit at a desk and work 40 hours a week kind of a position open.
So you're saying their research skills may be a little more on the cutting edge because they are in school, whereas most of us are out of school and haven't been in school for some time.
And it's not even so much the skills as it is the access to resources.
Sure.
Once you leave the university setting, right, you don't have maybe a library with all kinds of online journals that you can go to. Right. Where your university student maybe does, and they can use that and help you with some of the sources or the information that you need.
Good point.
The other thing to consider is not everybody is eligible to have a paid internship, particularly if you're looking at hiring maybe a foreign student or somebody who's here on an educational visa.
Okay.
They probably aren't going to be able to get paid. So if that's the case, then obviously you're not going to be able to pay them. Or if the student says, you know what, I don't need you to pay me. I'm doing this for the experience. I'm not looking for money. So I think you should still offer to pay them. But if they say, look, I just want to do it. I want to learn from you because you're the master or you're the greatest company to work for. And hopefully it's going to turn into a job for them, obviously.
Right.
But they're willing to take that internship responsibility on for that $0.
Looking at it from the opposite perspective, there are a lot of companies, a lot of industries where the unpaid internship has been, in the past, has been the norm. And for an unpaid internship, they're getting 200, 300, 400 applications for an unpaid internship.
You're right. So
does that system need to change? Should it stay the same? I mean, it's highly competitive in a system like that.
People want them, and I guess the question is, in academia, are we going to rock that boat and say, no, you should be paying these interns, and have them say, well, let's just not do it anymore, and see what you think of that?
Yeah, good point. Well, and I think the thought here to wrap it up, if Dr. Fairmont were here, he would surely want the listener to be on the up and up according to federal guidelines. What do you think Dr. Fairmont would tell us in terms of, whether or not, if the listener's thinking, I want to hire an intern for the summer, should I pay that intern or not? What would Dr. Fairmont want us to know?
Dr. Fairmont would tell us that internships are regulated by the Fair Labor Standards Act, and there are very specific criteria that have to apply, and there's 6 of them, and all 6 of them have to be met in order for an internship to be unpaid or not considered for minimum wage and overtime and et cetera under the FLSA. And the 6 criteria are very specific. I'll just give you some highlights here, but you can go to dol.gov and see those criteria if you just search for internships. And the internship number 1 rule is what's happening in the internship similar to training that would be given in an educational environment? In other words, are you just there kind of taking a class or learning the ropes? And if that's the case, you might have a case for an unpaid internship. The second one is that the internship is for the benefit of the intern. It's not there because you're trying to squeeze free work out of them. You're there to teach them and help them learn and get skills better and get more marketable.
It truly is about the intern.
Exactly. Number 3 is and 3 and 4 are ones that have really hit a lot of organizations hard in terms of legal cases. And the third one is the intern can't displace regular employees. So in other words, it's not something where, hey, we can hire you for free. I'm going to either fire somebody that I have doing this or not hire somebody that I should hire to do this for money. And number 4, maybe most important, and this is the one that gets challenged a lot in court, is the employer is giving this internship and is not getting any specific and immediate advantage from the activity of the intern, meaning, hey, we're letting them get their feet wet, we're kind of watching over them, we're letting them try stuff, but it's not like they're creating content for us or doing chores for us. And I think a lot of times interns get tasked with stuff that actually is adding value to the organization and probably should be paid.
It sounds like by the letter of that law there that, if the intern is a game changer, there is an immediate advantage based from the intern's work. Seems like from the FLSA standpoint that point 4 has been violated if the intern's a game changer. Got to pay them.
And that's the one I think that, particularly with the Fox Searchlight case a couple of years ago on Black Swan, that cost them a lot of money because they did have interns adding value, doing stuff that needed to be done, making the movie better, and they didn't pay them. And now they have in the tune of millions of dollars.
Can we get in on some of that?
I think it's too late. Maybe next time.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do it for Star Wars Rogue One if we can.
I like it.
Well, we'd like to thank you for listening today. We encourage you to send in your topics if you have something that you'd like Dr. Clayton and I to discuss, or even Dr. Fairmont if we can get him in here. I'd like to thank St. Leo University, the Donald R. Tapia School of Business, our sound engineer today,
Mr. Sean Gibbons.
Thank you, Sean. And if you see Dr. Fairmont, tell him we're looking for him.